You may hear people refer to the phrase voice of the customer when talking about competitive openings or doing market research about where an application may exist. What do they mean when they say voice of the customer? Well, I'm going to use a set of flips to illustrate this. The flips are sort of our version of QFD, which stands for Quality Function Deployment. We've adapted it to be a teeny bit more useful for this training. So let's go to the flips. In the first flip, what you see is just one box, needs. The first thing you want to know about the voice of the customer is, do they need anything? We talked about that when we're out there searching for problems. That's where the information on needs comes from. Let's go to the next flip. Now what we add to the needs is, what are the metrics that measure those needs? Notice I have this box in the center called the relationship metrics, which is to say that needs are qualitative concepts, but metrics are quantitative, so we're going to convert these qualitative or ordinal, more or less kind of notions into very precise engineering parameters that will allow us to meet the needs, or into ease of use interface designs that will allow us to meet the needs. Okay, so that's what that second flip says. So collecting the voice of the customer is not just understanding that they have needs, but being able to quantify those needs. However, think about it. Suppose I want something faster, better, cheaper, or lighter yet more powerful. Well, there may be trade-offs I have to make between my needs in order to get what I want, and I may not be able to have everything I want. As the Rolling Stones sings, you can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. Well, the triangle on top is a trade-off area where we can look at how one metric affects the other metric either positively or negatively or not at all. That is, as I try to stretch that on that metric, does it have an impact on other metrics and thus influence needs? Now, if I'm going to do that to try and meet what the customer wants, I need one last box in this, and we're going to see the next box pop up in the last flip in this section, in this discussion, and that is the importance of the needs. Not all needs are held equally. We saw that when we said there's usually only 3, 4, 5 things that people buy on. Everything else has to be good enough. We saw that when we talked about weighting, goodness of fit metrics, and so on. And here we're just illustrating it in the context of voice of the customer. So what we've done in this last flip is sort of summarize what we have discussed up till now, where your technology meets the needs and optimizes on the important needs. A competitive opening exists. You're listening to the voice of the customer. How do you know that it meets those things and it optimizes that way? Well, you have to go out and collect data so you do know what the voice of the customer is. And that is both objective data that you get from literature and intersubjective or subjective data that you get from talking to people, so on and so forth. Ideally, you want both literature sources and primary sources, which means talking to people. Literature is sometimes called secondary sources, so that you can use different data sources to confirm the information and have a stronger degree of confidence in what you're finding. Okay, so much for voice of the customer. Let's move forward.